The alien siege has lasted for over a century. This simulation, designed to mirror every harrowing aspect of that siege, is widely regarded as the ultimate test of military prowess. For generations, it's been the trial by fire for cadets from dozens of species. Countless strategies have been attempted and inevitably failed, with the best cadets often lasting days before being forced into surrender or defeat. Only a few have ever made it through the simulation, and even they took weeks. To end the siege scenario is to be immortalized in military history. Instructors warn that the simulation is designed to expose every weakness. It adapts to every move, countering attempts at innovation with ruthless efficiency. Even seasoned officers regard it with a mixture of respect and trepidation. This isn't just a test, it's a rite of passage, a way of determining which cadets have the potential to survive, lead, and inspire on real battlefields. And yet, here stand the Deathworlder cadets, about to face it for the first time. These cadets are unlike any others. Hailing from a planet so hostile that merely surviving day-to-day is a test of willpower and resourcefulness, they are already a rare breed. Deathworlders are seen as both a marvel and a threat by other species. Their resilience is legendary, born from the necessity of facing brutal predators, unforgiving climates, and limited resources. Every one of them carries the unique toughness and survival instinct that only a world on the edge of danger can forge. Their strength is not just physical, it's a mentality shaped by a lifetime of adapting quickly, acting decisively, and never backing down. And now, they are here, about to test themselves against the infamous siege scenario. There's a palpable tension in the air as the simulation is explained. The objective is simple on paper: breach the alien defenses, neutralize key targets, and bring the siege to an end. But simplicity is deceiving. The scenario has stymied generations of brilliant minds, defying conventional tactics and punishing overconfidence. These alien forces, simulated to be as ruthless and resourceful as they are in reality, hold nothing back. The siege is meant to seem unbreakable, a seemingly endless test of endurance, strategy, and grit. Most cadets approach this scenario with meticulous planning and cautious optimism, knowing that every move they make will be scrutinized and countered. They deploy strategies that emphasize caution, favoring a slow, methodical pace. After all, this is a challenge that has outlasted everyone before them. The expectation is that the Deathworlders will do the same. But the cadets stand, silent and focused, with an energy that is anything but cautious. They seem almost eager, as if looking forward to the challenge, not as a rite of endurance, but as an opportunity to demonstrate the raw force and boldness that define their people. Observers and instructors watch with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. These Deathworlders are a wild card, their approach to the simulation as unpredictable as the planet they come from. Their instructors have given them only the most basic briefing, knowing that traditional approaches might hinder more than help. What strategies might they use? Will they try to endure and outlast the siege, or will they risk everything in one decisive assault? And if they choose the latter, will it end in failure, or could they actually succeed where so many have fallen? As the simulation prepares to start, whispers ripple through the observation deck. Speculation mixes with concern. The Deathworlders have been known to challenge norms, to push boundaries that others would shy away from. Many are curious to see how they will respond to an enemy designed to outmaneuver and overpower the best of the best. Could these cadets be capable of something unprecedented? The thought is intriguing, if unlikely. After all, this is no ordinary simulation, it's a painstakingly crafted ordeal meant to grind down even the most resilient minds. Yet, the Deathworlders stand there with an unmistakable calm, as if they are viewing this challenge through a different lens. They don't seem overwhelmed by the scale of the siege, instead, there's a glint of determination, of readiness. To them, perhaps, this isn't an insurmountable trial but rather a problem waiting to be solved with the ferocity and ingenuity their kind is known for. Finally, the countdown begins. The air crackles with tension. This is it, the moment when theory will meet action, when reputation will either be upheld or crushed. In a few minutes, the Deathworlders will be thrust into the heart of the century-long siege, with only their wits, instincts, and unyielding courage to guide them. And as the last few seconds tick away, a single thought lingers in the minds of those watching: are these Deathworlders about to defy the odds in a way no one ever has? The Deathworlder cadets stand apart, embodying a reputation both intimidating and alluring. They've endured conditions that would devastate most other species, fostering a unique, almost feral strategic approach that values direct, impactful results over caution. Where others rely on tradition and meticulous planning, Deathworlders are driven by adaptability, raw instincts, and a sharp awareness of their environment. From birth, they're taught that survival depends on taking control, outmaneuvering threats, and leveraging any advantage, no matter how small. It's no surprise, then, that their approach to the alien siege scenario would be far from conventional. In the moments before the simulation begins, the cadets conduct a brief assessment, dismantling the century-old alien siege setup in their minds with unnerving efficiency. They quickly identify potential weak points, patterns in the enemy's behavior, and areas where speed and aggression might overwhelm defenses that were designed to withstand a more calculated, drawn-out approach. The challenge, as they see it, isn't about proving their endurance but exploiting every vulnerability with precise, relentless force. While most teams focus on establishing a slow but steady foothold, these cadets plan to shatter expectations by prioritizing disruption over cautious infiltration. Their method of evaluation is instinctual, a skill honed by years of surviving in a world where threats are constant and unforgiving. Each cadet brings their own unique perspective, shaped by experiences that would seem extreme, even horrific, to outsiders. Rather than strategizing with a checklist of protocol, they operate with fluid adaptability, a trait honed by countless encounters where even the slightest hesitation could mean death. They think in terms of moments rather than plans, favoring actions that will provoke immediate, disorienting responses from their simulated adversaries. The alien siege simulation was designed to mirror the strategies and resistance capabilities of the species it represents, enemies known for their tenacity, resourcefulness, and rigid command structures. Most cadets would respond by mirroring this cautious, structured approach, but the Deathworlders view this rigidity as a weakness. They interpret the alien force's predictability as an opportunity to attack with audacity and deception, knowing that if they move fast enough, the simulated enemies will struggle to adapt in real time. This is the Deathworlder philosophy in essence: seize control before the enemy can even react. To those watching, it's clear that these cadets aren't concerned with merely passing the test, they're determined to redefine the parameters of success. They reject any strategy that demands they respect the siege as an established challenge. To them, the simulation isn't some monumental obstacle to respect, it's a puzzle to dismantle. They recognize that the siege's impenetrability is as much a psychological barrier as it is a tactical one, and they intend to break through both with the same intensity. Their plan isn't about endurance, it's about impact, about forcing the simulation to yield before the alien forces can reinforce or adapt. Their approach relies on three key principles: speed, surprise, and overwhelming force. They plan to hit hard and fast, to move through the simulation with a momentum that leaves no time for their simulated enemies to regroup or counteract. They don't care for the typical tactics of prolonged engagement and gradual advances. Every action they plan is designed to dismantle, disrupt, and dominate. The Deathworlders see themselves as agents of chaos within the simulation, a force that defies standard patterns and forces the enemy to respond, rather than react. They intend to dictate the pace from the very first move. Deathworlder philosophy doesn't just favor aggression, it thrives on adaptability. Each cadet has been trained to abandon any plan that shows signs of faltering, pivoting instantly if the situation demands. In their minds, every delay is an advantage handed to the enemy, and each second of hesitation weakens their position. Rather than investing in detailed contingencies, they trust their instincts to guide them through rapidly changing situations. Their plan is a framework, not a rigid strategy, an outline that allows for maximum flexibility within the heat of engagement. This fluidity, combined with their ferocity, makes them a force that is as unpredictable as it is powerful. To the Deathworlders, control is about understanding that fear and hesitation are the true enemies, not the simulated alien forces. They reject any mindset that assumes the siege is unbeatable, focusing instead on creating opportunities through relentless pressure. Every cadet knows that hesitation is a luxury they don't have. Instead, they leverage the fear of their enemies. They recognize that their reputation alone could unnerve opponents, and they use this to their advantage, crafting a strategy that maximizes the shock factor. The alien forces won't just be defending against attacks, they'll be scrambling to anticipate an entirely new way of engagement. Their unorthodox approach isn't simply a choice, it's a necessity. Deathworlders live in a state of heightened awareness, instinctively recognizing threats and adapting in real time. It's this ingrained responsiveness that they believe will carry them through the simulation. To them, each enemy position isn't a challenge to be overcome slowly but an opportunity to exploit with immediate, decisive action. They're not looking to secure a foothold, they're planning a blitz, a high-stakes gamble that would terrify any cadet who hadn't grown up on a death world. For the Deathworlder cadets, every move they make is a calculated risk. They've been taught to embrace the unknown, to see chaos as a tool rather than a hazard. This approach allows them to outthink enemies that rely on rigid strategies, and it's this confidence that has them standing, poised and ready, on the brink of the simulation. They are not simply entering a test, they are entering a field of opportunity, ready to exploit every weakness the alien siege presents. In their minds, there is no doubt that they will succeed, because hesitation has no place in their way of life. Their strategy reflects not just their upbringing but an ingrained worldview that only Deathworlders possess. The simulation is merely the latest in a long line of challenges, and they view it as just another opportunity to prove themselves, not to others, but to their own standards. The simulation isn't an impenetrable fortress to be worn down, it's a target, and they intend to bring it down, not through caution, but with the force of their unyielding will. The simulation begins, and the Deathworlder cadet's strategy is instantly apparent. Unlike previous teams who methodically probe defenses, their approach is immediate and relentless, aimed at dismantling the enemy's coordination before it can even mount a counter. Instead of cautious, incremental advances, they hit multiple high-priority targets at once, knowing that this shock to the system will prevent the enemy from regrouping. Their actions are precise and pre-planned, focusing on the key points that maintain the integrity of the siege. Every strike is designed not to wound, but to disrupt, to unravel the interconnected systems holding the alien forces together. The cadets waste no time on unnecessary engagements or diversions. They move with clear intent, targeting command nodes, key communication hubs, and supply lines. Their plan revolves around creating chaos, attacking points that will cause maximum disarray and confusion. By striking at the heart of the siege's infrastructure, they are forcing the enemy to respond in ways it wasn't designed to handle. Their attacks are timed to create a cascading effect, where each success compounds the next, making it increasingly difficult for the simulation's forces to adapt. This strategy reflects their understanding of momentum. By the time the alien defenses realize they are under assault, the cadets have already shifted to secondary targets, keeping the enemy perpetually off balance. The idea isn't just to break through defenses but to make the defense itself a liability. By forcing the alien forces to constantly adjust, the cadets are effectively dismantling the enemy's ability to organize, making every piece of its once formidable structure vulnerable. This approach is more than aggression, it's controlled, strategic annihilation of the enemy's core strengths. The Deathworlder's approach is calculated to keep pressure on the alien force's command structure. By focusing on the head of the snake rather than the tail, they disrupt the alien force's ability to coordinate a cohesive response. Without clear lines of command, the simulated alien troops start reacting chaotically, acting in isolation rather than as a unified front. This breakdown in organization turns a well-structured defense into fragmented pockets of resistance, each easier to dismantle than the whole. The cadets exploit this, turning the enemy's own strength into its weakness. Their relentless advance sends a clear message: they have no intention of retreating or stalling. This shock-and-awe approach forces the enemy to prioritize immediate survival over strategic reorganization. The alien forces, structured to withstand a siege of endurance, are ill-prepared for an opponent that disregards traditional forms of engagement. Every position the cadets take shifts the balance, turning previously strong fortifications into liabilities as they take control. Their objective is simple: dominate, overwhelm, and leave no room for the enemy to stabilize. They are relentless in exploiting every gap, every oversight, pressing forward without allowing the alien forces a chance to regroup or mount an effective counteroffensive. This constant, suffocating advance forces the simulation's forces into an unfamiliar mode of engagement, defensive, reactive, and increasingly desperate. The cadets are not just pressing the attack, they're dictating the terms of engagement, using their aggressive tactics to maintain control over the flow of battle. This level of control creates a psychological advantage that compounds their physical dominance. Each attack on a critical node increases the strain on the alien forces, which are quickly forced into survival mode. The initial shock and the continuous pressure keep the enemy scrambling, unable to mount a cohesive defense or adapt to the speed of the cadets' offensive. For the Deathworlders, this is exactly the effect they intended: to stretch the enemy's resources thin, making it impossible for them to mount a coordinated response. By systematically targeting command centers and supply chains, they have effectively neutralized the siege's resilience from within. The alien forces, accustomed to maintaining a static defense over prolonged periods, are overwhelmed by the intensity of the cadets' onslaught. Every defensive measure the enemy tries to establish is met with immediate disruption. The alien forces find themselves unable to anticipate the next strike because the Deathworlders are not following any predictable pattern. Their unpredictability is as lethal as their firepower, creating an atmosphere of constant uncertainty for the defenders. The siege scenario, built to test patience and resilience, becomes a fatal trap under the cadets' aggressive push. What makes the cadets' advance even more impactful is their ability to remain flexible. As they progress, they adapt fluidly to emerging vulnerabilities, exploiting every mistake the alien forces make. This adaptability is not just a survival mechanism, it's a calculated way to escalate the chaos, ensuring that every move builds on the previous one. They don't allow the enemy to learn or adapt, keeping each assault fresh and unpredictable. This relentless adaptation, combined with their speed, denies the alien forces any sense of stability. As the alien defenses begin to buckle under the pressure, the cadets push harder, amplifying their attacks. Every weak point exposed is a new opportunity, and they seize each one with brutal efficiency. The siege simulation, designed to grind down cadets over days or even weeks, is crumbling in minutes. Every tactic the alien forces attempt to counter them is met with an immediate, ruthless response, leaving no time for regrouping. In their hands, the simulation's intricate layers of defense become fragile, shattering under the weight of their force. Their strategy leaves no room for recovery. The alien forces, designed to be indomitable, are torn apart by the Deathworlders' unrelenting assault. They have not only dismantled the core of the alien siege but have done so with a ruthless efficiency that defies the expectations of every observer. This isn't a battle of endurance, it's a decisive, overwhelming conquest. The cadets have transformed the century-long siege scenario from a slow-burning trial into a catastrophic defeat for the enemy. With every move, they've turned the simulation's own strengths against it, proving that the deadliest weapon isn't just force but the will and instinct to dominate completely. This relentless momentum, this lack of hesitation, has left the alien forces shattered and without direction. The Deathworlder cadets achieve something no one anticipated: they've dismantled the alien siege scenario within mere minutes, stunning every observer. The simulation, notorious for its brutal resilience, has been reduced to fragmented chaos. Cadets from countless species have tried and failed to do what these Deathworlders accomplished in a fraction of the time. The contrast is stark: where others spent days or weeks making minor gains, these cadets systematically took down the siege with precision and intensity. The entire room of observers is left in a state of disbelief, as the simulation ends with victory far sooner than expected. The response among instructors and high-ranking officers is a mix of awe and confusion. The alien siege scenario was engineered to resist even the best tactical minds, to exhaust, to grind down, and ultimately overwhelm through sheer persistence. It was meant to be an unbeatable challenge, a lesson in humility. And yet, the Deathworlders approached it differently, seeing the scenario not as an obstacle to outlast but as a target to obliterate. Their victory, unexpected and unprecedented, forces everyone to reconsider the limits of the simulation itself. Perhaps it wasn't designed to account for a force like the Deathworlders, a force that doesn't recognize the constraints that others abide by. The immediate aftermath is filled with questions. How could they have broken through so quickly? Was there a flaw in the simulation, or did the Deathworlders uncover a weakness that no one else had seen? As instructors analyze the data, the answer becomes clear: there was no flaw in the simulation. The Cadets' victory was the result of their relentless, unyielding approach, a strategy rooted in their unique understanding of combat. Where others would hesitate, they pressed forward. Where others would consolidate gains, they exploited every vulnerability, leaving no time for the enemy to adapt. Their approach had bypassed the conventional wisdom surrounding the siege, and in doing so, they had redefined what was possible within the simulation. This victory raises deeper questions about the role of Deathworlders in intergalactic defense. Their ability to dismantle a scenario designed to be undefeatable is not just a testament to their skills but a potential game-changer for military strategy. If a handful of cadets could bring down a century-long siege in minutes, what could a full battalion achieve? The implications are enormous. For some, this victory is inspiring, a glimpse into a new era of warfare where bold, unorthodox tactics can overcome even the most formidable defenses. For others, it's unsettling. The Deathworlders' success challenges the very foundations of military doctrine, suggesting that perhaps traditional strategies have been too conservative, too hesitant, to maximize potential. Yet, there's also a sense of caution. The Deathworlder approach, while undeniably effective, is aggressive and high-risk. It depends on absolute commitment, on a willingness to take chances that most would shy away from. There's no room for second-guessing or hesitation. This kind of approach might not be feasible or advisable for all forces. The Deathworlders possess a unique psychology, molded by a world that demands constant vigilance and fearlessness. Their tactics, while powerful, may not be replicable without the same level of training, experience, and innate resilience. They've demonstrated a new way of thinking about combat, but it's a way that might be difficult for others to adopt without similar conditioning. As the dust settles, the Cadets' victory starts to ripple through the ranks. Stories of their accomplishment spread rapidly, reaching cadets and officers alike. For some, it's a moment of inspiration, a rallying cry to push boundaries and think beyond traditional limits. For others, it's a cause for reflection, a reason to question the efficacy of established doctrines. There's a sense that this victory has shaken something fundamental in the military hierarchy, exposing a gap between theoretical strategy and the raw, adaptable power displayed by the Deathworlders. This isn't just about winning a simulation, it's about rethinking the way wars might be fought. In the minds of many, this victory plants a seed of doubt about the so-called unbeatable simulations and scenarios that have defined military training for so long. If the Deathworlders could dismantle this siege in minutes, what other supposedly insurmountable challenges could be overcome with the right mindset? The Cadets have proven that ingenuity and audacity can unlock possibilities where there were thought to be none. This notion is both exciting and intimidating. It suggests that the limits placed on trainees may not be as fixed as once believed. Perhaps it's not the scenarios that are unbreakable but the mindsets trained to respect their boundaries. This success has another implication: the Deathworlders' potential role in future conflicts. Their approach to combat challenges conventional risk assessments, favoring rapid, decisive action over prolonged engagements. The Cadets' victory demonstrates that, under the right conditions, they can accomplish missions with unprecedented speed and impact. This raises questions about how Deathworlders might be deployed in real-world scenarios. Could they serve as a first wave, breaking enemy lines before traditional forces move in? Or would their methods be reserved for special operations, utilized only in missions where audacity is the best strategy? However, this victory also sparks a quiet sense of unease. The Deathworlder approach is not just aggressive, it's unyielding, uncompromising. It doesn't leave room for negotiation or compromise. Their victory wasn't achieved through careful diplomacy or a balanced show of force, it was a display of overwhelming, unapologetic power. For some, this raises ethical questions. Should the military embrace a strategy that prioritizes domination at all costs? The Deathworlders have shown that this approach can be effective, but at what cost to the values and principles held by other species? Their victory is a reminder of the potential dangers inherent in power unchecked by restraint. In the end, the Cadets' success has redefined the limits of possibility within military training. They have achieved what was once thought impossible, breaking a simulation that had defeated generations of cadets from across the galaxy. Their victory is a testament to the power of unorthodox thinking, of daring to see challenges not as walls but as pathways. They have demonstrated that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in endurance but in the willingness to disrupt, dismantle, and defy. This is the legacy they leave behind, a reminder that no barrier is insurmountable, no challenge unbeatable, if one is willing to abandon convention and embrace the unknown. This victory will resonate long after the simulation ends. It's not just a win, it's a paradigm shift, a challenge to established norms. The Deathworlder cadets have done more than succeed in a test, they've forced the military establishment to confront its own limitations, to question whether its methods are truly as effective as they are perceived to be. In their triumph, they've opened a door to new possibilities, new tactics, and a new understanding of what it means to fight. The question now is whether the rest of the galaxy is ready to follow the path they've blazed. The impact of the Deathworlder cadets' victory reverberates throughout the military. Their approach has set a new standard for what's possible, shifting the perception of combat effectiveness from prolonged endurance to audacious, high-impact strategies. This isn't just about the success of one group of cadets, it's a lesson for an entire military establishment. The simulation, once seen as an untouchable benchmark, is now re-evaluated. Analysts are tasked with dissecting the Deathworlders' approach, trying to understand if their tactics could be applied broadly or if they remain unique to a species conditioned for survival under extreme conditions. Their success has cast a new light on the potential role of Deathworlders in future strategies. Traditionally, military doctrine has emphasized measured, calculated engagement, prioritizing risk aversion and gradual gains. The Deathworlders, however, have shown that a different approach, focused on seizing and maintaining absolute control, can yield results that traditional strategies cannot match. For military leaders, this victory is a signal to rethink the role of calculated aggression in warfare. The cadets have demonstrated that, under the right circumstances, rapid, high-stakes engagement can lead to decisive outcomes that render prolonged battles obsolete. This outcome also challenges the assumptions about simulation design. Previously thought to be comprehensive, the simulation's parameters now appear limited, designed with the expectation that cadets would respect its boundaries. The Deathworlders prove that simulations can be outsmarted by those who don't view limitations as immovable. As a result, there's now a push to overhaul these scenarios, infusing them with the adaptability to challenge cadets who, like the Deathworlders, might prioritize audacity over tradition. Their victory suggests that current simulations, while complex, may not fully capture the range of tactics real combat could entail. Beyond the immediate implications for military training, this victory has shifted the perception of the Deathworlders themselves. Once viewed as unpredictable outliers, they're now seen as potential leaders in the development of modern combat techniques. Their methods may be high risk, but their effectiveness is undeniable. In a military environment often wary of change, the Deathworlders' success forces a reconsideration of what kinds of skills and mindsets should be cultivated. If Deathworlder tactics can be integrated without losing the safety net of traditional doctrines, they might reshape combat approaches across different species, enhancing intergalactic military cohesion. Yet, there's skepticism. Some leaders view the Deathworlders' tactics as dangerous, a pathway to reckless overreach. Their success, though extraordinary, is seen by some as an anomaly, something effective only because of their unique conditioning and background. The argument is that Deathworlder methods, though powerful, might lead to unsustainable levels of attrition if applied universally. These concerns prompt discussions on whether their tactics can be adapted responsibly or if they should remain exclusive to the Deathworlder forces. It's a debate that raises questions about the balance between effectiveness and caution, between power and control. This debate also extends into ethical considerations. The Deathworlder's uncompromising approach to warfare doesn't leave room for surrender or negotiation. Their tactics prioritize total dominance, which some view as morally ambiguous in the context of intergalactic relations. This creates a divide in military philosophy. On one side, those who value the results the Deathworlders achieved and, on the other, those who believe that such methods could lead to conflicts that escalate beyond control. The Deathworlders' victory has not only disrupted tactical conventions but has also sparked a philosophical discussion about the ethics of total warfare. In light of this, there's a cautious interest in incorporating Deathworlder instructors into military training programs for other species. Their presence could introduce cadets to a mindset that emphasizes initiative, adaptability, and unyielding determination, traits that are valuable but often underdeveloped in traditional training. However, the challenge is to balance this integration carefully, ensuring that other cadets learn from the Deathworlders' strengths without adopting a mindset that could conflict with their species' values or capabilities. This proposed integration would require a nuanced approach, one that respects the Deathworlders' unique perspective while recognizing the diversity of experiences across the galaxy. The cadets' victory has also influenced the broader societal perception of Deathworlders. Previously seen as outliers with unpredictable tendencies, they're now viewed with a mix of respect and intrigue. Their resilience, honed through generations of survival, has become an asset that the galaxy can no longer ignore. Their methods, once dismissed as too extreme, are now seen as viable solutions to complex problems. For the Deathworlders, this shift represents a validation of their worldview, a recognition that their approach to life and conflict holds inherent value. They've earned not just a victory in the simulation but a new level of respect that might open doors previously closed to them. Looking forward, the Deathworlders' success raises questions about the future direction of intergalactic military strategy. Their unorthodox methods offer a roadmap for developing combat strategies that rely less on conventional wisdom and more on the strengths and instincts of individual fighters. As the military continues to analyze their tactics, there's a growing sense that this may be the beginning of a strategic shift, one that embraces diversity in combat approaches. The galaxy, once hesitant to adapt to Deathworlder methodologies, is now considering ways to incorporate their influence without compromising on established principles. Ultimately, the Deathworlder's impact goes beyond tactics and strategy. It challenges the way the galaxy views conflict resolution. Their victory has shown that adaptability, audacity, and the willingness to think outside established paradigms are invaluable in overcoming seemingly insurmountable challenges. This insight could have applications far beyond the military, influencing political, social, and economic interactions across species. The Deathworlders have, in a way, proven that survival on their homeworld has equipped them with skills that extend into every facet of galactic life. In the aftermath of their success, the legacy of the Deathworlder cadets will likely serve as both a benchmark and a catalyst for change. Their approach, characterized by unyielding force and a disregard for conventional limits, has left a lasting impression on all who witnessed it. The question now isn't whether they were successful, but what this success means for the future. Will the galaxy adapt to this new standard, or will it attempt to contain the Deathworlder's influence, viewing it as a threat to the order it has carefully cultivated? Either way, the Deathworlders have shifted the course of military thinking, setting in motion changes that cannot be ignored. In the end, their victory serves as a reminder that sometimes the most valuable lessons come from those who challenge the status quo. The Deathworlders didn't just beat a simulation, they forced the galaxy to confront its own limitations, to question the boundaries it once accepted as unbreakable. Whether their approach becomes a model for the future or remains a singular achievement, their impact will be felt for generations. The legacy of the Deathworlder cadets is more than just a win, it's a declaration that survival, adaptability, and resilience are forces that, when combined, can overcome anything, even the most entrenched obstacles.